So I'm Gaddafi from Nafil Academy. So we at Nafil Academy deliver high quality continuing professional education courses and content for dental surgeons and dental support staff. So today we are partnering with Nafil Counseling to bring you this webinar. So some house rules for the webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box, if you can see right at the bottom of your Zoom app. So type it over there, and our speaker will do our best to actually answer the questions at the end of the webinar. So please feel free, looking forward to your questions. So today's webinar will be managing and resolving conflict effectively for a healthy relationship. So the highlights are managing versus resolving conflict, different conflict resolution styles, and how managing and resolving conflicts can help you grow in a relationship. So today's guest speaker, Ms. Zahira Masood, is a principal counselor at Nafil Counseling. She has a master's degree in professional counseling and works with adults, adolescents, couples, and families on a broad range of mental health conditions such as stress, anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. So without further ado, Zahira.
Thank you, Gaddafi. A very good evening to everyone who's taking your time in this evening to join me here today in another series of our webinar. Today's webinar is mainly focused on couples, of course, on managing and resolving conflict effectively for a healthy relationship. Hi, I'm Zahira, Principal Counselor with Nafil Counseling. Before we start, a little bit of a background about me and what I do here in Nafil. I help people from all sorts of background, from young to old, in their mental health journey. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing the most is helping couples in their relationship, whether it's for them to overcome an obstacle that is impeding their relationship from growing, or just challenging issues that they might encounter in their relationship that require them to relook at what is missing in the space. So my sole purpose was to journey with them through couples therapy. I also give insights to emotional health and relational well-being. Okay, so as what Gaddafi said, before we start, please note that this webinar today is solely meant for guidance purposes only, okay? There are many resources and websites you can refer for more information on today's topic. You're always welcome to reach out to me if you like to have some of these resources. Also, just to give you a heads up, there will be a segment for Q&A towards the end of the webinar, where I'll be answering questions about the topic today. Meanwhile, you can just drop your questions in the chat box, but I'll be answering them towards the end of the session. So let's begin. Okay, so here are the topics that I'll be covering today. Is the difference between managing and resolving conflict, identifying conflict resolution styles, and tips for managing and resolving conflicts effectively to help you grow in your relationship. I know today's topic is very common in most long-term relationships. Let's be real, even the happiest couples have conflicts. Okay, arguments are very common in any kind of relationship. If your friend tells you that they have never had any kind of disagreement in their relationship or their partner, then they're not telling you the truth, or something is really wrong somewhere. So I mean, two people can't be expected to agree on everything at all times. It is perfectly normal to have a disagreement in a relationship. Sometimes going through some kind of conflict can be healthy too. What it means is that both parties are expressing themselves rather than, just bottling up those emotions, and these suppressed emotions can then fester into something toxic. So the balance between negative and positive interactions during conflicts can also predict whether the marriage or the relationship will last, believe it or not, okay? So when there is no balance, this is when couples will be arguing all the time over simple disagreements that might end up in hostility, such as screaming match, or just to get your point across. Or sometimes you just notice that your partner doesn't want to talk to you. So that's called stonewalling. So now these can really take a toll on your relationship, because there will be times when you start questioning if you're even compatible for each other. So this is when why we should be learning ways to handle this agreement constructively, which is really crucial for your relationship. Conflict is something you cannot escape from, it's inevitable, but how we deal with it makes a difference in the health of our relationship and our emotional well-being. When conflict is mismanaged, it can harm the relationship, but when handled in a respectful and positive way, conflict provides an opportunity for growth, ultimately strengthening the bond between two people. By learning these skills you need for successful conflict resolution, you can keep your personal or even, professional relationships strong and growing. Okay, so what are the common conflicts in a relationship? Well, this consists of any type of situation, event, or experience that is concern of importance to the parties involved. There are varieties of factors that lead to conflict, some of which include topics such as money, children, in-laws, chores, personal issues such as self-esteem, values, expectations, or goals. It can be relational issues as well, such as the amount of time you're spending together versus time alone, support versus control, affection, and communication. While there are, endless reasons for conflicts, it can be so many of them. They generally surround the underlying needs of all humans, including physical, intellectual, emotional, social, spiritual, religious. Most importantly, how we approach and communicate these issues often determines the outcome. Most people know that in order to resolve conflicts, we need to communicate about the issue. But negative patterns of communication can often lead to greater frustration and escalation of the conflict itself. So you may want to consider the following challenges, such as, one of them is communication, body language, tone of voice, because when the words that we use managing the conflicts, believe it or not, is really important, and how we project ourselves to our partner. Our body language and tone of voice often speak louder than our words, right? So, for example, if you are shouting and you say, "I'm not angry," it's not a very convincing message. When we give an incongruent message where our tone of voice and our body language does not match our message, confusion and frustration often follow. So in order to overcome communication challenges, we need to be aware of what kind of messages our body language or tone of voice may be sending to others. So speak humbly, keep eye contact, smile when appropriate, and maintain an open, relaxed posture. I know it's very easy to just say it, but it's difficult when you're all heated up. So depends on your ability to manage stress while remaining alert and calm. Staying calm, you can accurately read and interpret verbal and non-verbal communication. So control your emotions and behavior if you're able to. When you're in control, your emotions can communicate your needs. You can easily communicate these needs without threatening, frightening, or punishing others. Pay attention to the feelings being expressed as well as the spoken words of others. So be aware and be respectful of differences by avoiding disrespectful words. and actions, you can resolve the problem faster. The other one would be differences in style. Each of us has a unique way of communicating, often based on our family experiences, our culture, gender, and many other factors. For example, when we may tend to be more louder than our partner, more outgoing, more emotional, I would say, when compared to our partners. While there is no right or wrong style, our past experiences often lead to expectation that that are not usually verbally communicated with others, which can cause tension and misunderstanding in our relationship. So, for example, if you come from a large family that tends to shout in order to be heard, we may think that speaking loudly is quite normal. But if our partner comes from a calmer family environment, he or she may be very uncomfortable with us projecting ourselves that way, or might be frightened by that raised voice. So discussing our backgrounds and perceptions can definitely help to clarify expectations of ourselves and others, and can also help our partner understand us, our point of view, knowing that this information often help in the problem solving process. Okay, so communication roadblocks is happens when two people talk in such a way that neither of you feels understood. Research has found four particularly negative styles of communication. So these are the four styles. Okay, it's called the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I know it sounds very wow. This term is actually coined by the Gottmans, a husband and wife team, who are known for their clinical research on couples therapy. They said that if these four negative styles is left unchecked, interaction can eventually become lethal to your relationship. So these styles are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So the first one, which is stonewalling, as you can see over here, is a total withdrawal and refusal to discuss the issue. So it's usually leaves the conversation just hanging right there, nowhere to go. It is often used by people who don't like conflict, so they tend to avoid it. It is very common occurrence in relationships for one partner to habitually stonewall. I'm sure you have gone through this before as well. So while this leaves the other person hanging and getting frustrated trying to figure out the answers, right? Okay, so the next one is criticism, commenting negatively over and above the current problem. For example, saying things like, "You're so clumsy and forgetful," or "You're so stupid for saying that," may cause the other person to feel attacked or even threatened. This behavior often creates a very defensive response. So it can be a trigger for a real shouting match, and the argument can just escalate from there. Okay. The next one is contempt. Contempt means, sneering, belittling, or sarcasm on your partner. For example, saying things like, "Hey, you think you know it all, huh? You're too smart." Okay, this is very unproductive and can cause the other person to feel humiliated and small. And the last one is defensiveness. Okay, I'm sure like we all sometimes catch ourselves in the situation where we're trying to aggressively, defend ourselves and justifying ourselves to the other person. So one example will be things like, "You have no idea what I went through at work for me to remember the things that you're trying to tell me," right? Or, "Why are you asking me these questions?" Just trying to defend yourself, and your partner would likely feel attacked when the argument escalates in this manner. Okay, so some additional examples of communication roadblock includes ordering, warning, preaching, advising, lecturing, agreeing, just to keep the peace, ridiculing your partner, talking down on them, interpreting, just to make them feel like as if what they're saying is untrue, sympathizing, questioning, and the last one is diverting. Okay, so communication roadblocks are very common, okay? So however, they do not promote healthy conflict resolution and often lead to escalation of the conflict. Recognizing these roadblocks and making efforts to effectively communicate can help individuals overcome those roadblocks. Okay, so what is the difference between managing and resolving conflicts? Conflicts arises from differences, right? So it occurs whenever people disagree over their values, motivations, perceptions, ideas, desires, you name it, okay? So sometimes these differences can look really trivial, but when a conflict triggers strong feelings or emotional, a deep personal relational need is that comes from the core of the problem, a need to feel safe and secure, a need to feel respected and valued, or a need to have that greater sense of closeness and intimacy. When a couple has that long-standing conflict that cannot be easily resolved and will need to continue to be in that same space without reverting to that same behaviors present at the height of the conflict, then you can use conflict management. Okay, so conflict management is a way that handles differences and the dispute positively and constructively to encourage the parties to work together even during conflict. Okay, so instead of looking for ways to resolve it at the heart of the dispute itself in that heated moment, you can use conflict management that can, seek to mitigate the negative effects of conflict in the environment, whether it's at home or in the office, on the phone, on your holiday, anything happen at that point of time when you're trying to, when you have some sort of disagreement and you need to nip it at that point of time. So you can use conflict management. Is very useful when couples cannot agree on something they can't see eye to eye based on long-standing differences, so that they are able to move forward without harboring negativity towards each other. On the other hand, conflict resolutions work differently. It seeks to heal the conflict at the heart of the dispute itself. It focuses on finding creative solutions, common grounds between the couple. It seeks to, view the conflict as just a temporary hiccup and a neutral source rather than harboring the negativity, and look for possible ways get positive outcomes on it. So conflict resolution is usually focused on long-term disputes that are present in the current moment, but it seeks to find its way in larger conflict through an understanding of these disputes. I'll explain about this a little bit further later, okay? So when the couple is able to understand the dispute, they seek to find ways to make things better by improving the way they communicate, dividing tasks or responsibility, etc. When this happens, this will be beneficial for long-term and larger issues in life. So conflict management and conflict resolution can definitely work hand in hand in certain conflicts and issues. When issues surfaces, couples usually look into conflict resolution first to solve the problem. They may look at things like mediation or negotiation to get to the root of the conflict and find ways to move forward. However, I feel like these things may take some time, so there will be a need for that common understanding or the agreement that may resolve the issue at hand. If the issue is bigger, such as infidelity or long-term issues such as perpetual disagreement, then it is beneficial for the couple to get help from a couples therapist to support them through this process for deeper work to heal the wounds from the past. However, when conflict resolution seeks to reduce or eliminate the conflict management help parties to create an open-mindedness within the relationship, and this can lead to resolution as the parties learn to listen to each other and be more open to different experiences that can help them to be more understanding and have that threshold to actually sit and listen to your partner. Okay, so the next one, identifying the conflict resolution style. These are some things that you can catch yourself when you are trying to resolve an issue with your partners. There are 5 major ways to resolve conflict, and 3 of them can be really hurtful and can definitely hurt your marriage or your relationship. So let us take a look at them and identify how to best resolve the conflict in a way that promotes healthy communication and healthy relationship. Okay, so the first one is avoidance. Avoiding discussion about tension in your marriage can only create distance between the two of you. It can indicate low regard for your needs, low regard for your partner's needs. So in this case, neither party wins. And both parties lose. Okay, so however, there may be times when delaying a conversation is needed. For example, when in public space and you don't want to get into a heated argument with your partner, needing time to cool down is very important. So, but don't confuse delay for avoidance, okay? Because delay is just prolonging the problem itself. Okay, so the next one is anger. I think this is quite common when you're just really very heated up. It's, my way or the highway approach. It indicates, high regards for your needs and your needs only, and low regards for your partner's needs. So unless you absolutely know your spouse suggestions will be detrimental or you need to stand up for your rights, be careful with this method, okay? With this style, one person is only the winner and the other is definitely the loser. So using anger to steamroll your way through a conversation is likely to cause it to escalate, leaving your partner feeling unheard and unloved. Marriage or being in a relationship is definitely not a competition, yeah? So, and neither should your resolution style be. Okay, so the next one would be accommodating. This can be really helpful when it comes to issue that is, I would say, not as important to you as it is to the other person. However, sometimes accommodating your partner can be a form of avoiding or expressing your concerns because you want to protect the relationship by downplaying the conflict. Okay, it indicates that you have a higher regard for your partner's needs than your own. Repeated use of accommodation can definitely lead to resentment towards your partners in the long run because you're always accommodating to the other person instead of having your needs being heard. Okay, so the next one is compromise. Here is where the regard for both parties become recognized as important. With compromise, I feel like both parties win. It indicates a mid-level regard for your own needs and your partner's needs. It shows concern for each other and demonstrate respect because it's accommodating to both your needs in that relationship. So, and it's more likely that the previous three styles, that this style itself promote closenesses in the relationship. Okay, and the fifth one is the ultimate level of the conflict resolution style, that has a lot of respect and care about each other's needs. Collaboration indicates high regard for your partner's needs as well as your own, which promotes co-ownership of the problem and leads to closeness of the relationship. So it's a win-win situation and neither party has to lose in order to do so. So overall, how you view your needs compared to your partner's needs will impact the way you communicate, which is fundamental to a healthy marriage or healthy partnership. Okay, so moving on, healthy and unhealthy ways of managing and resolving conflict. So conflict triggers strong emotions, right? And these strong emotions can lead to feelings of hurt, disappointment, and discomfort. So when handled in an unhealthy manner, it can definitely cause irreparable rifts, okay? Resentment, breakups, and so on. But when conflict is resolved in a healthy way, it increases our understanding of one another, builds trust, strengthens your bonds, and creates more intimacy. So the unhealthy responses to conflicts are characterized by an inability to recognize and respond to matters of great importance to the other person, explosive, angry, hurtful, and resentful reactions, the withdrawal of love, resulting in the feelings of rejection, isolation, shaming, fear of abandonment, the expectation of bad outcomes, and the fear of avoidance of the conflict. Whereas healthy responses to conflicts, having the capacity to actually recognize and respond to important matters at heart, readiness to forgive and forget, the ability to seek compromise and avoid punishing, and a belief that a resolution can support the interest of both parties. Okay, so here are the tips, for managing and resolving conflicts effectively to help you grow in your relationship. Okay, so the ability to successfully manage and resolve these depends on 4 key skills. Together, it form a fifth skill that is greater than the sum of its parts, the ability to take conflict in stride and resolve differences in ways that builds trust and confidence. So skill 1, that would be quickly to relieve stress. Skill 2, recognize and manage your emotions. Skill 3, improve your non-verbal communication. And skill 4, use a lot of humor and play to deal with challenges. What I meant by this is that you can actually avoid many confrontations and resolve arguments and disagreements by communicating in a playful or humorous way. Humor can definitely give a very different outlook on the situation itself, and humor can help you say things that might otherwise you find it hard to express without creating a flap. So however, it's important that you laugh with the other person, okay, not at them. So when humor and play are used to reduce tension, anger, reframe problems, and put the situation into perspective, the conflict can actually become an opportunity for greater connection and intimacy. Hence, managing and resolving conflict requires a certain emotional maturity, self-control, and a lot of empathy for your partner. So it can be tricky because, and there are times that you feel that it's so frustrating or even frightening. You can ensure that this process is as positive as it can be by sticking to the following conflict resolution guidelines. Okay, so first of all, it's important to know why are you arguing in the first place. It is useful to think of an argument like peeling an onion. The outer layer, is what you're speaking about, while the deeper layers beneath represent underlying issues or root cause of the problem that stems from a deeper layer of the relationship itself. In other words, sometimes we argue about, just about what's going on, but this is only a symptom of what is going on, not the cause. Okay, for example, if just a case scenario, Tom, gets into an argument with his partner about whether they do fair share of household chores. On the surface, the argument may seem to be about something very small, right? It's just household chores, but it can also tap into wider feelings about how well Tom actually feels supported in the relationship generally. These may also remind him of situations when he felt let down and felt belittled or unsupported by people in his life. So whereas, for Tom's partner, the argument can tap into deeper worries about how controlling they feel Tom can be, right? So you see the difference here. So if you find you and your partner argue frequently about the same kind of things a lot, it can be a good idea to think about what's really causing this conflict. Are you arguing about what you think you're arguing about, or are there other things going on in the relationship that frustrate you or worry you? Okay, you may want to think about other influences, such as whether there has been any recent changes in your lives that may put extra pressure on either of you. Could be things at work, a bereavement, starting a new family, moving house, financial issues, or just reaching a milestone in your relationship, whether celebrating the big birthday. It's the 50th big birthday. People might feel differently about themselves, or an empty nest. So there could be so many factors, okay, that those feelings can come from. So sometimes it can also be, when couples don't spend enough time with their partners, that less quality time does affect them as well. So has there been an incident, that you both are struggling to get over with? So it's good to think about all these things, seeing past your emotion and examining the wider context of the situation can be great to really get to the root cause of what's going on. Okay, so it's good to talk about things in a calm, constructive manner. I understand that it can be really challenging when you're very emotional. So you might like to try, some of these following steps. The first one is choose an appropriate time to talk about what's going on. If you think you're going to struggle with your emotions, it's worth simply coming back to the topic when you and your partner are a little bit more calm, in a calmer state of mind. Likewise, it's a good idea to have the conversation at a time where you both feel like you're able to focus on it, not when when your partner is heated at that point of time, or is about to go to work, or there's like a loud TV going on, your child is crying, that's not an appropriate time. So it's good to choose a real, good, conducive environment and a good time to talk about these things. Okay. The next one, number 2, would be gentle startup. By starting the discussion amicably. I think this is one of the most important skills to overcome that communication roadblock. Expressing something positive, shows appreciation, what they have done for you, focusing on one problem at a time. Okay, so this gives you a time to also take responsibility for your thoughts and feelings. Don't go in, just feeling all confused and heated up with your guns firing all the way. And do not give sarcastic or critical comment. It can be useful to start by saying something positive, such as, I feel like we are getting on really well for the past few months. I was hoping that we could talk about how much we've been arguing recently. This can be a good way for a gentle startup. So you're not directing it to them, but you're directing it towards how you're feeling about the situation. Okay. So use I statements, which is very important. Not you statement, because this means your partner will feel like they are not attacked for that situation, and you're taking responsibility for your own emotions. For instance, if you're saying like, you never listen to me, try saying things like, I feel like I'm not being heard when I talk to you. So can you see the difference there? So instead of saying that you never listen to me, which is attacking them, I focus to choose on my emotions. So I say, I feel like I'm not being heard when I talk to you. So there's a huge difference there. Yeah, it sounds really, really different. So just try to see things from your partner's perspective. A conversation is unlikely to go anywhere productive unless both partners feel listened to. Okay, it can be tempting to just try to get your point across, but if you want to resolve things, it is important you take time to hear what your partner has to say as well. Okay, take time to hear them out and what they have to say. They might have an entirely different perspective, one that you need to understand if you want to get to the root of what's really going on. So try to validate each other's feelings by saying like, I can see why you're feeling frustrated, or now it makes sense to me why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So by validating your partner, they feel heard, and this can be really hugely powerful. Okay, so okay, let me just move on to the other slide. Okay, so remember, you're not just arguing about the surface problem, like I described to you, the onion, the outer layer and the inner layers. As much as we like to believe our partners will, or rather should always understand where we are coming from, the truth is that they have grown up with their own ideas, with different influences and deep-rooted issues through childhood. For instance, if you think they're controlling with money, it may be that their role model while growing up have modeled them for that. So the role model have always been in charge of all financial affairs. So they've always assumed that's how things work. So you see what I'm getting here. So again, use a lot of I statements instead of you. For example, you can say to your partner, I want to stay involved in making decisions about money, rather than you've never include me in any of the financial decisions. So it feels very, you're attacking them again. So this can, by saying something different, that like, I want to stay more involved, it can decrease defensiveness and promote positive interactions with your partner. Okay, the next one would be keep tabs on physical feelings. This will help to make and receive repair attempts. Another important skill in overcoming the communication roadblocks. Okay, so these repair attempts are efforts to keep increasingly negative emotions or negative interaction from going further by taking charge or breaking or making efforts to calm the situation. It is important because conflict arises when when we often experience intense emotional and physical stress, and these can impact our ability to think or even reason the situation, which can lead to that communication roadblock itself. So taking time away from the conflict to calm down and help us be more prepared to discuss the issue is really, really helpful. If things are getting too heated, it can be a good idea to take that time out, and once you are both in a calmer situation, like I said earlier on, it's better to be in a calm situation than saying things that you don't mean and you might regret it later. So being in a worked up manner might worsen the situation and leave both of you seriously hurt. Okay, so be prepared to compromise. Often the only way to reach a solution is both partners to give some ground. If both of you stick rigidly to your desired outcome, the fight is just probably going to go on a perpetual cycle, and it's just going to keep going on and on and on without full stop. Okay, so it might be that one of you need to compromise a little so that you're able to move past things. Sometimes an imperfect solution is better than no solution at all. Okay, so another tip to manage and resolve conflict, which I find is so powerful and effective, is the effective speaking and listening skills. Okay, so overcoming the communication roadblock itself required you to speak effectively and have great listening skills to understand your partner. They call this the speaker listener technique to help individuals be more effective in the way they communicate. So each partner takes turns being the speaker and the listener. When people are upset, the words they use rarely convey the issues and needs at heart of the problem, right? When we listen for what is felt as well as what is said, we connect more deeply to our own needs and emotions and those of other people. So listening in this way also strengthen your relationship, inform us, makes it easier for others to hear us out. Okay, so the rules of the speaker is that the speaker should share his or her own thoughts, feelings, concerns, not what he or she thinks the listener wants to hear. Okay, so these are coming from you. So use a lot of I statements when speaking to them to accurately express your thoughts and feelings. Keep statements short and simple so that the other person are able to, understand what you're talking about, so that they don't get really overwhelmed with the information that you're giving out. So stop at each statement so that the listener can ask you back, if they don't understand what you're talking about, or repeat back in, they can repeat back in their own words of what's been said or shared, so that they truly understand what you're talking about. So if it's helpful to like really paraphrase what your partner is talking to you, it's like rephrasing what they say in a positive way, so that the listener can understand, and you as a speaker can actually tell them what actually is going on within you. Okay, the rules for these listener include: listen to the reasons the other person gives for being upset. Make sure you understand what the other person is actually telling you from his or her perspective. Paraphrase what the speaker is saying. If unclear, ask for clarification. Continue until the speaker indicates that the message was received correctly. Okay, so repeat the other person's words, and and ask if you have understood them correctly. Don't argue. Don't give your opinion about what the speaker says. Wait to do this until you are the speaker, and do it in a respectful manner. While the speaker is talking, the listener should not talk or interrupt except to paraphrase after the speaker. I know it's very hard to interject. Resist the temptation, okay, to say your point of view until the other person has said everything he or she wants to say, and feel that you have listened to them or understood his or her message. Ask if anything remains unspoken, giving them time to think about before answering. Okay, so when listening to the other person, I feel it's important to encourage them to share their issues as fully as possible by saying things like, I want to understand what has upset you. I want you to know what you're really, I want to know what you're really hoping for. I want you to know that I'm here for you. Clarify the real issues rather than making assumptions. Ask questions that allow you to gain more information on what's going on, and let the other person know that you're trying to understand them. Okay, maybe by saying things like, can you say more about that, or can you tell me more about what's been happening recently? Is that the usual way of how it happens? Restate what you have heard, so that both of you are able to see what has been understood so far. It may be that the other person will then realize that additional information is needed when they're expressing themselves. Okay, it sounds like you're not expecting that to happen. Reflects on feelings a lot. Be as clear as possible. Oh, I can imagine how upsetting that must have been for you. Validate the concerns of the other person, even if a solution is not there at the point of time, and it's not readily available for you to think of that solution. So expressing appreciation can be a very powerful message if it is conveyed with integrity and respect. So saying things like, I really appreciate what we are talking about this issue, or I'm glad we're trying to figure these things out. So expressing that appreciation in a very respectful manner is really going to be impactful on your communication. Okay, so the speaker and listener definitely need to take turns with each other, so that they both have a chance to express their thoughts and their feelings. Either can call for timeout at any point of time when they feel really overwhelmed with emotions, The goal of this activity is not to solve a particular problem, but rather to have a more safe and meaningful conversation and to understand each other's point of view. As quoted by Gottman, while we may not always agree with the other person's point of view, understanding and validating others' thoughts and feelings can improve the relationship and help us build on common ground, which may lead to more effective negotiation and problem resolution. Okay. Also do note that it can take a while to change negative behaviors. So learning to disagree in a constructive and calm manner is crucial. If you've gotten used to a certain pattern of behavior, it might take a little practice, before you are ready to start towards a common goal. However, do try to stick with it, because once you get used to working through problems in a constructive manner, it can definitely produce some really positive changes in your relationship. All relationships are work in progress, okay? Don't get me wrong. If you find yourself growing again and being able to reflect on what had happened, think about things that what you could have done better, to make a positive change in your relationship, then it's going to be amazing, moving forward. So it's very, very important to forgive yourself and your partner and move on. Okay, so to recap, dealing with conflict can definitely take time, can take your mental space, emotional space, and physical energy. It can be a lot of work. However, I think learning about, implementing these few simple communication skills and techniques can increase positive interactions with your partner and with the people around you also. So the opportunities for personal and relationship growth are well worth the effort to sustain a healthy partnership. If you find it challenging to implement the tips shared here today, perhaps it's really good to, speak to a couples therapist, reach out to them to help guide you toward a better communication and a healthy relationship. Okay, so lastly, I just want to share this quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher. He quoted this, he said that there is always madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness. I feel this is like a really beautiful quote that describes modern day love. Okay, here at Nuffield Counseling, we have been featured in several websites, recommended as one of the top providers for couples counseling. Here is the contact if you have any questions about our topic today and would like to book an appointment with us. With that, we have come to the end of the webinar today. I open this time for question and answer segment. Okay, so so this question is about, okay, my partner doesn't get how I feel. It's difficult to share negative feelings with my partner. Okay, right. Yes, it's very difficult. I can imagine how, others it can be. But if you want your partner to listen to you, then it's good to be able to model to be that better listener first. Okay, taking time to listen to what is bothering them can definitely create a safe space for each other, which might lead to deeper sense of connection. I hope I answered that question. Okay, and the other question is, recently my partner found out that I had cheated on her. okay, before we got married, and is resentful towards me. We argue all the time, even though this happened in the past. How can we resolve this? Okay. It sounds like there is a need for deeper understanding and work around your relationship on trust, especially. It is advisable to get support from a couples therapist to work with the core issue of these troubles in the relationship. Everyone has a different lens from their experiences from childhood to adulthood. Sometimes, that feelings of being cheated on by your partner. How your partner is feeling that she's being cheated on has triggered some memories of whether it's between her father or mother or people that she has known that is close to her that can trigger such deep emotions. So it's really, really good to just reach out to a therapist to work through these issues. Okay. I only have time for the last question. Is there really a way to solve conflict that will meet both parties' interests and needs? Okay, so not all disputes have win-win solutions, but many, do if you're willing to compromise. That is, especially if one examines the interests that underlie the positions. Keep in mind that interests may not be material rather than psychological. Okay, so sometimes people feel hurt and disrespected. Hearing their side and apologizing might be something that's needed at a point of time to make amends. So it's really important to make them feel that they can move past that problem itself. By sometimes you just have to like step up and be that person to apologize. Okay, all right, so we're running out of time, and we have come, that will be it for our Q&A segment. If anyone has any questions, please just drop us an email and I will be able to answer them. I'll be happy to provide you the resources even if you need them. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of our webinar on the couple series. Thank you for taking your time to join us here today. Till we meet again in our next webinar, here's wishing everyone a happy Diwali. Okay, stay safe, enjoy your long weekend, good night, and don't forget to be kind to each other.
Thank you very much, Zahira, for the very insightful topic. I think it's quite helpful for a lot of partners out there. So if you feel that this webinar is going to be useful for your family and friends, you can actually share it via YouTube. So you can actually visit our Nafil Academy YouTube channel. Just search Nafil Academy on YouTube and you can actually find our channel there, and the video will be, a recording of the video will be there. So please share with your family and friends if you find this webinar useful. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking time to be with us tonight. Thank you, Zahira, for the very insightful talk, and see you next time.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.